Okay, today's daf is Shabbat Nun Hey. We're really, as I said yesterday, we're in the middle of a very, very interesting sugya. One that's also, parts of this are very famous and very well known. So you'll recognize some of it as we go along. We started yesterday with a discussion about basically the responsibility of, it was really more talking about leaders or someone who's in a position where they can have effects on other people. And their ability, and if they don't do that, then they basically are considered responsible. As we said, which all started out with this para of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So today we're going to continue to go in this theme. We're going to analyze it a little bit more in depth. And then we're going to eventually, at the end of the daf, I'm going to connect it all back and what's this doing here in the parak. So if you want, you can have your minds rolling while we're learning and try to think about if you have your own ideas about this. Okay, so here goes. We're going to start from the second line on Nun Hamud Aleph. Rabbi Yehuda have a yativ kamei de Shmuel. Here's a very disturbing story. Rabbi Yehuda was sitting in front of Shmuel. A woman comes before him and starts screaming. We're going to see this. Remember this theme. We often have screaming women in the Gemara. There's this tipus of a woman who is known to be a screamer. Again, you could say, oh, it's negative. They talk about women as screamers. Actually, my theory is that, again, it's just a theory, but that a lot of times they didn't listen to the women. And when you don't get listened to, your only resort is to start screaming so that people will listen to you. So anyway, she starts screaming in front of Shmuel. And as I said, right, he doesn't respond to her. Amarle, so Rav Yehuda, now this is interesting. Until now we keep saying, you're responsible to comment if someone's doing something wrong. So comes Rav Yehuda, the student of Shmuel, and he says to Shmuel, something doesn't look right here. Lo savar lemar. Don't you hold that otemos no mizakat dal gam hu yikha velo yanen? He quotes my pasuk in Mishle that says, if you close your ears to the cry of the poor person, then you will have a situation where you will call out and nobody will answer you. And basically, how can you not be listening to this poor woman? Amrle, and here's an interesting response. I'm not exactly sure what to make of it. He says shinina, which is what he always calls Rav Yehuda. It's a term of endearment. Reshach b'karire, your leader, meaning me, you're the guy on top of you, which is me, his head should go in cold water for doing this. But reshach b'chamime, but the one above me, the one above your head, okay, which we're going to see, and who is this? Hayativ Mar Ukva. Remember, he was the one we discussed yesterday, Mar Ukva. Hayativ Mar Ukva Av Beitin. He's the guy who sits as the Av Beitin. He's the one who really has the power to do something. I'm not so powerful. I can't really do anything for this woman. I can't really help her. Now, even though we couldn't help her, he could have at least responded to her, which is strange. But he basically, and that's why he says, I am going to get punished for this, but I'm not going to get punished as severely as Marukva. And it's interesting. Usually we always say, don't point fingers at other people. But he's really saying, I don't really have the power to help her, and that's why I didn't really respond to her. But Mar Ukva, who's the Av Beitin, who we also saw yesterday was the Rosh Galut, he has the power to help her, and he's not. And he's really responsible. Here's a call out to the house of David, who's doing the mishpat. Okay, in other words, they're going to end up being burned if they don't do mishpat properly. So he basically says it's the leader's fault. Okay, and I'm a leader, but I'm not the top leader, so the buck doesn't stop by me. I'm not fully responsible, which is a very strange response. You would have expected Shmuel to assume responsibility, and he doesn't. And he doesn't get criticized for this either, so it's interesting. So it could be really he wasn't the one in power, and she had just gone to the wrong person, right? How often is it that we go call and scream out to the wrong person, and then, it wasn't he who could help us? I'm really Rabbi Zera and Rabbi Simon. Here comes Rabbi Zera. Now, if you remember Rabbi Zera and Rabbi Yehuda didn't think that Rabbi Zera should move, right? He didn't think anyone should move to Eretz Yisrael, and Rabbi Zera wanted to move to Eretz Yisrael. I wonder if this story, at least it reminds us of this, because what's he going to say? You should go and rebuke the house of the Reish Galuta. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, okay? They're sinning, and you should go rebuke them. Now, this is interesting. You think about maybe one of the reasons he wanted to make Aliyah was he was disillusioned by the authorities there in the Reish Galuta, and maybe that was one of the reasons that prompted him to want to go to Eretz Yisrael. I really don't know, but it's just interesting. Amrle, so Rabbi Simon says to him, Lo mekable minai, they're not going to listen to me. In other words, I assume Rabbi Zera didn't think he was in a position. Again, we have this issue, and maybe really what Shmuel is teaching us is you have to figure out who's in what position and who can actually be effective. So Rabbi Zera pinpointed Rabbi Simon that he could be the one to do this. So he says they're not going to listen to me. So what's the point of rebuking if they're not going to listen to me? Amar lei, Rabbi Zera says to him, "Afagav delo makable lechuchinu ma." Even if they're not going to accept it from you, you still have a responsibility to rebuke them. And here comes a big, interesting story. Amar Rabbi Acha bar Rabbi Chanina, me'olam lo yatzta midat hadin midat tova mipi HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'chazar v'lera'ah chutz midavar zeh. Okay, this is famous. The Rambam quotes it that God will never change. If God promises something good, he will always commit to the good that God promised. If it's something bad, it can always be changed because people can repent. There's only one thing, according to this Gemara, that once God changed his mind and was going to do something good for someone or people and changed it for bad, and it was on this issue. Okay, specifically this issue, that you should rebuke people even if you think they won't accept your rebuke. So here goes the story. And it's a drasha on all these psukim in Yechezkel Perek Tet, and it goes like this. Vayomar Hashem elav, avol b'toch ha'il, b'toch Yerushalayim, v'yitvei tatav al mitzchot ha'anashim ha'ne'anachim v'ha'ne'anakim, al kol ha'toavot ha'nasot b'tocha. Go and put the letter Taf, okay, on the foreheads. Write the letter Taf on the foreheads of all, right? Yechezkel do lots of strange things. This wasn't the most strange of them. And he says, put on the foreheads of those who were crying out, who were suffering, because of all the bad things that are happening in the midst of Yerushalayim. So now what's going on here exactly? So here comes the explanation. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu leGavriel. He said to Gabriel the Malach, Lech urishom al mitzchan shel tzadikim taf shel dio, shelo yishletu b'hem alachei chabala. Go put a taf in ink on the foreheads of all the tzadikim. Why? So that when the angels of destruction come in, they'll know not to kill them. This is just like the blood on the doorpost in Pesach, right? So they know to pass over the blood. Notice, keep that in mind, because listen in 1 minute. Specifically, the blood gets put on the bad people. Here, the blood doesn't save. It's the ink that saves. It's the blood that is the blood of destruction. Anyway, the Risha'im get the blood, the Taf of destruction. So God basically decided, I'm saving the Tzadikim, I'm killing the Risha'im. Now this is soon going to change. So now comes Midat Hadin. Amra Midat Hadin, how do you call it? The judgment, basically, the idea of judgment comes in and says, L'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribbono shel olam, ma nishtanu elu me'elu? Why are these people any different from those people that they get the tav of ink and they get the tav of blood? Amar la, halal tzadikim gemurim, halal rishayim gemurim. God answers very simply. It's very obvious what the difference is. Those are the real tzadikim, and those are the real true rishayim. Everybody else was just in the middle, and they didn't get anything. But those are marked for death, and those are marked for life. Amarla, so the attribute of justice says, Galoi v'yadua lefanai, she'im michu bahem, lo yikablu bahem. I'm sorry, God says, my mistake. Right, no, I skipped a line, that's why. Okay, sorry. Halal she'im gemurim, I skipped the line. Okay, we're like right in the center of the page now. Amra lefanav, so the attribute of justice says to God, Ribbono shel olam, hayavi adam limchok v'lo michu. How could you call these people tzadikim gemurim when they could have impacted the Risha'im? There can't possibly be Risha'im Gemurim if there's Tzadikim Gemurim. The Tzadikim's responsibility is to say something to them. And they didn't. So Amar La, so God answers, Galoi v'yadua lefanai, she'im michu behem lo yikablu mehem. God says, well, it's very clear to me, I know that if they had said something, nobody would have listened to them. So therefore, they didn't have a responsibility of rebuking. So here comes the big line of the attribute of justice. Amra lefanav, Ribbono shel olam, im lefanecha galoi lahem, mi galoi. Im lefanecha galoi lahem mi galoi. If it was obvious to you, was it obvious to them though? Because you know everything, God. But people have no idea, and this is a great lesson we all always need to remember, that you never know what's going on in the mind of somebody else. And you never know what might be. Okay, this is very interesting because the Gemara seems very clear here that you can never really know. Now, Tosfot immediately jumps on this, and if you listen to the parak of Gefet, they talk about this Tosfot this week. It's a very interesting Tosfot. Tosfot says, wait a minute. It says in a different sugya that mutav shiur shogigim va'al yiyu mezidin. If people are sinning and you think they're not going to listen to you, well, better let them think that they're doing the right thing than tell them they're doing the wrong thing, and then they'll do it on purpose. And how does that reconcile with this? And Tosfot, in order to reconcile, it says, well, there's a difference between knowing 100% they're not going to accept it, and then mutav yiyu shogigim, versus, and he doesn't say what percentage, but let's say 90% or something like that. If there's a chance they might listen, that's what this is talking about, which I think is a very difficult pirush, because the pshat of this really seems like you really, really never know. Okay? And therefore, here goes. So now, how do we know that God changed his mind? So now we have to read in Darshan the Psukim. Dichtiv. Zachem b'chor b'tulah taf v'nashim tahargu l'mashchit. Okay, those people should all be killed. V'al kol ish asher alav hatav al tigashu. And everyone, it says in the Pasuk, who has a taf, don't go near. Now, obviously, this meant the taf of the geo, the ink. But here comes the word right immediately after that. It's very tricky. Umi mikdashi tachelu. Okay, and start with the mikdash. Uchtiv vayachelu ba'anashim askinim asher lifnei habayit. And they started with the elderly people that were near the bayit. Now, askinim are usually good people. Tani Rav Yosef explained this pasuk in the Braita. Al tikrei mikdashi ela mikudashai. Start with my most sanctified. So what do you have here? God starts with the most sanctified. Okay? Elu b'nei adam shekimu et haTorah kula me'alef ad taf. So what happens? Umiyad, and immediately then what happens? And actually this is a pasuk that was beforehand, not after, but they, this is what happens in the world of Rashot. You can mix things around. V'hinei shisha anashim ba'im miderech shar ha'elyon asher mafneh tzafona v'ish klema patzo biyado. Okay, here come the 6 people, which are really, we're going to see in a minute, they're the 6 angels of destruction. He has a quill in his waist. And they come to the Mizbach HaNechoshet. Okay, we're going to stop here for a quick minute and just explain how they get here. So what did they say? Basically, that God was ready to save them. Whoever has a tuf gets protected, and then immediately it says, start with my Mekudashim. Start with the tzaddikim. Okay, and so that was where the switch happened. Obviously, the conversation we saw was happening in between those two, those parts of the pasuk. And God changes his mind, and because the tzaddikim didn't change or didn't rebuke the Risha'im, they end up getting punished. So now let's start in this pasuk. How do we know that this pasuk also means? This pasuk is also going to show that they started with the tzaddikim. Mizbach HaNechoshet mihava. So first of all, there was no Mizbach HaNechoshet. The Mizbach HaNechoshet was something that was in the time of the Mishkan. When they rebuilt the second temple, they built, Shlomo built it with a Mizbach of Avanim. He didn't build the Mizbach Nechoshet. The Mizbach Nechoshet was where they did all the sacrifices in the Mishkan. But in the time of Shlomo, it was Avanim. So why are they mentioning Mizbach Nechoshet? Amar lo Kadosh Baruch Hu, itchilu mimakom she'omrim shira lefanai. Okay, so they went to the place where the Leviim sung their songs, and they had musical instruments that were made of Nechoshet. And that's what we're talking about here. So which means also that they started with the Leviim, were the more prominent people. Okay, these are the 6 words, right? Anger or rage, anger. These are all different synonyms of anger. Chema is also anger. Umashchit is destruction, mashber to destroy, and mechaleh is also to wipe out. Okay, so these are all different words describing different destructive acts, and these were the angels of destruction. Now they're going to say, Umay shna taf. Why specifically the letter taf? Amarav, taf tichye, taf tamut. Okay, on the tzaddikim it was tichye, on the Risha'im it was tamut. I think here what he's referencing is the how, and this all has to do with rebuke, how easy it is to switch from one to the other, right? You would think they would mark the tzaddikim with one and the Risha'im with a different one. But instead it's trying to say you can easily move from one camp to the other. Right? It's very easy, and if specifically I think they're talking about the way to tshuva, although it could also be the other direction, you can easily slip also. And there's a fine difference, right? A small, small difference between tichya and tamut. Ushmuel amar, we're going to have, I think, 5 different interpretations of what this taf was for. Tamas chutavot, taf for end, okay, right? Taf is the last letter of the alphabet, and it also stands for tama, ended, schutavot. there's no longer zchut avot, and it's all based on, are you a tzaddik, are you a rasha? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Tachun zchut avot. Zchut avot should come upon you, and he's focusing on the tzaddikim. The tzaddikim's taf is saying basically, zchut avot should come and protect you. Rish Lakish Amar Taf sof chotamo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Taf is the end, it's the stamp of God, because it's the last word in his name. The Amar Rabbi Chanina, chotamo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu emet. The stamp of God is emet. So using the last letter, it's the stamp of God. You think about, right, we saw this all over the Megillah. The stamp, right, once you stamp, it's final. So this is interesting. It's showing the stamp of God was on there, and even though it was the stamp of God as if this is final, it ends up not being final, right? That nothing's really final. And maybe, again, it's trying to tell you the idea of changing people's ways, that nothing is ever final. If the word of God isn't final, then obviously your actions don't have to ever be final. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar, Elu b'nei Adam shekimu et haTorah kula me'alef ad taf. That's what we saw before. So the taf was a reference that they did all the mitzvot, including, from aleph to taf. Now we're going to just go off on a tangent about the zchut avot. Matai tamas zchut avot. When did zchut avot end? And we're going to have a bunch of different times in history where it's possible zchut avot ended, and each one is kind of going to have a different historical time period and a different way of learning that tamas zchut avot. Amara, miyamot Hoshea ben Be'eri, shene'emar, egale et niflata. Okay, this is Hoshea ben Eli, ben Elah was in the beginning of the 8th century BCE. Agale niflata le'enei ma'aveh, he was a Navi, one of Treasach. V'ish lo yitzilena miyadi. Okay, basically no one's going to be there to save them. Okay, this is, right, that's kind of like, there's no zchut avot. Ushmuel amar miyimei Chazael, shene'emar v'Chazael melech Aram, he was king of Aram, he was appointed by, or anointed, Eliyahu was told to go after the whole incident at Har Carmel, and I'm telling you this specifically because we're going to reference in a minute Eliyahu at Har Carmel. After the Har Carmel episode, he's told by God, go make Chazael the king of Aram. So this is a little bit after that. So it says that he was Lachatze Israel Kol Yomei Ha'achaz. He was, right, a thorn in the side of the Jewish people. Uchtiv Vayichan Hashem Otam Vayirachamem Vayifen Alehem Leman Brito et Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov. So what do you see here? That God protected them because of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and this is the last time it was mentioned. So instead of saying that there's, right, the Hosea pasuk was, there's nothing to save you, this is basically saying that you were saved by zchut avot, but that was it. That was the last time. Now he says, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amar, Mimei Eliyahu. Okay, he says from Eliyahu. So now we're going a little bit back before, okay, a little before what we saw with Chazael. Shene'emar vayiba alot hamincha. This is by Har Carmel. Vayigesh Eliyahu hanavi vayomer Hashem Elohei Abraham Yitzchak v'Yisrael. Hayom yivada ki ata Elohim v'Yisrael v'ani avdecha ubidvarcha asiti et kol hadvarim ha'ele. Okay, he says, I know you're the God, right? And now everyone will know, and as if this is the last time they're going to know. Okay, so again, zchut avot, and this was it after this. Rabbi Yochanan Amar mimei Chizkiyahu. Okay, now we're jumping ahead. This is toward the end of the end of the 8th century. Shneimar lemerbeah misra u'leshalom en ketz al kisei David va'al mamlachto la'achin oto l'sada b'mishpat u'b'tzedakah me'ata v'olam kin'at Hashem tzvaot ta'aseh zot. Now, we started with Hoshea where there was lack of something. Then we went to where we saw, and this was the last time, or we're told this is going to be the last time. But here it says, what's going to save them? Kin'at Hashem. It's the kin'at Hashem that's going to save them from their enemies, the revenge of God, which means it's not zchut avot anymore. There's something in its place. So from here you see that there was no longer zchut avot. Okay, why it's so important, right? I don't think the Gemara was trying to really get at history here because that's not usually what the Gemara tries to do. So I'm not exactly sure what to make of this and why it's so important to figure out, pinpoint exactly when. And maybe it's also their methodology is different. Is there something in place of it? Is there the lack of? Was this the last mention? Again, I don't know exactly what the importance of this is. So we're going to move on. Amarav Ami. Ein mita b'lo chet. Okay, we started our whole thing with people are attributed sins that they didn't do because they didn't stop people from doing it. This seems to be saying the opposite, which is Ein mita b'lo chet, ein yisurim b'lo avon. Ein mita b'lo chet. How do we know this? Dichtiv hanefesh hachotet hi tamut. Ben lo yisa b'avon ha'av, v'av lo yisa b'avon ha'ben. People always get punished for what they themselves did. Fathers don't get punished for their sons don't get punished for their fathers. Obviously, we know, and there's other sugya where we'll deal with this, we do know Pokei Avot al Banim, and how do we resolve that? And they usually say that's when the son goes in the ways of the father. But anyway, here this sugya is basically saying that people only get punished for their own sins. And Yisurim b'la'avon, you won't have suffering without a sin. Dichtiv upakadati b'sheva pisham u'b'negaim avonam. Right? Everything happens because of a sin. So now they're going to bring a contradiction to this. So how this works in with what we said earlier is a good question. The Gemara doesn't really talk about it. It could be that what they're trying to say is that what we talked about earlier is all about you are just sinning. In other words, by not rebuking someone, you're actually sinning, okay? Versus here, where you actually didn't do anything. And maybe that's what they're talking about. Although maybe this somewhat contradicts that, and he thinks, no, you're not going to get punished just because you didn't stop someone from doing something. But they go in another direction, Meitive. So first they bring a contradiction from the following source. So again, we have a lot of angels talking today. Angels said to God, why did you say Adam HaRishon was going to die? Right? And that's what, until Adam HaRishon sinned, people were supposed to seem like maybe live forever. But Adam HaRishon gets punished that he's going to die. Amar lahem, so God says to the angels, mitzvah kalatziviti va'avar aleha. What do you mean? I commanded him something pretty basic and simple, and he didn't do it. So of course he's deserving of death. Amar le, so they said to Amrule, the angel said to God, V'alo Moshe v'Aaron shekimu kol haTorah kula v'metu. But what about Moshe and Aaron? They kept all of the Torah, and yet they still died. So you can't say that everybody dies for their sins. And again, this is going to contradict what we saw before, that everyone dies for their sins. That's why we're bringing this. Right? This is a famous pasuk from Kohelet. In the end, everybody dies. Okay? And we don't need Kohelet to tell us this. We all know everybody dies, even if they didn't necessarily sin. Right? And take Moshe and Aaron as an example. They didn't sin. So that source seems to contradict. So what's Rav Ami going to answer? Well, Huda Amar Ki Hai Tana. We could say that Rav Ami holds like a different Tana. In other words, that's one approach. One approach is to say people actually just eventually die, even if they didn't sin. No, they did sin. What do you mean they didn't die for their sins? They did sin. It says, right? God says, you're going to be punished because you didn't, right? You're not going to get to bring the people into the land, and presumably you're going to die before your time. So they, in any case, they did die for a sin because they both sinned. What sin they did is a huge debate. In fact, Shadal has a funny passage where he basically says, because no one knew what this meant, and they gave so many different interpretations, they turned Moshe into like a real, Russia. Like they gave him so many sins. They attribute, he did this wrong, he did that wrong, he did that wrong, he did that wrong, and they made him into, a bad person. And then he says, so, I don't want to add but then he basically says, but I don't agree with anyone, so I am going to add, even though I don't think it's nice to add. But anyway, there's a lot of debate on what exactly this is. So anyway, we're going to put that aside. Says Adayin Lui, right, and therefore Adayin Lui Gizman Chemli Pater Min Ha'olam, right, they died before their time. So according to this, we basically say, Rav Ami thought that he was on the side that Moshe and Aaron sinned, and they died because of their sins. Right? Now, the pasuk only says they didn't go into Israel because of their sins. It doesn't say they died because of their sins. So basically, this bride says, no, they died before their time because of their sins. Meitive. So now we bring another contradictory source. And here we're going to end up with a problem. There were 4 people who died on account of the snake, which basically means what? They died because what? Because of the sin of Adam HaRishon, because man is no longer immortal. Man is going to die. And because man is going to die, that's why these people died, but not because they did anything wrong. Okay? They should have lived forever. But only because of the Nachash did they die. Who are these people who never sinned? Eluhin, Binyamin ben Yaakov, Amram. Notice, by the way, everyone's attributed to somebody else, either their father or their son. I don't know why, but that's Ben we normally see. We don't normally see Avi. So we're going to see, it's just interesting. So Binyamin, the son of Yaakov, Amram, the father of Moshe, Yishai, Avi David, Yishai, the father of David HaMelech, Vikil'av ben David, and Kil'av, the son of David. Vikulu Gemara. All of these we have a Masoret about. We don't really have sources to say they never sinned, but there's a Masoret that these people never sinned. Levar mi Yishai v'David mefarish be'kad. There it appears in the pasuk. We're going to see it doesn't appear explicitly in the pasuk. It's going to be based on a drasha from a pasuk, but that's more than just a masoret, which isn't connected to a pasuk at all. Dichtiv. Here's the pasuk. Ve'et amasa shem Avishalom. Sam Avshalom tachat Yoav. He put Amasa as the Sar Tzava instead of Yoav. V'Amasa ben Ish u'shmo Yitra HaYisraeli. He was the son of Yitra HaYisraeli. Asher ba'al Abigail bat Nachash achot Tzruya. Okay, he had the son with Abigail. She was the daughter of Nachash, who was the sister of Tzruya. Now, it's known that Abigail and Tzruya were both sisters of David. So, Aim Yoav, and she was the mother of Yoav also. But, in other words, she was the sister of Tzruya, who was the mother of Yoav. Basically, all this is saying is Amasa and Yoav were cousins, right? Their mothers were sisters. But what does it call Abigail? Abigail bat Nachash. The bat Nachash avai, hello bat Yishai avai. She was Yishai's daughter. Those sisters of David and his brothers were Tzruya of Abigail. Ella, what does it mean? Ella bat mishamet b'ityoshal Nachash. It means she was the daughter of the one, right? She was the daughter of the one who died from the Ityo of Nachash. In other words, Yishai was the one who had never sinned in his life. Okay, so now we're going to have to say, who is this Braita attributed to? This Braita says there's 4 people who died for no reason, right? Without sin. So the best thing would be to say, oh, that holds like the first Braita, because we saw there were 2 different Braita. One says people can die even without sinning, and the second one said people only die if they sin. So let's try to say it goes with the first Braita. Well, Ile Matana de Malachei Asharet, it's the Tana of the one with the Malachei Asharet who said to God about people dying, V'ha'ika Moshe v'Aaron. But according to that Braita, Moshe and Aaron never sinned either, in which case you should have 6 people who died, B'ityoshal Nachash, and not 4. Elalav, and therefore you have to say it's Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar he, Ushma mina yesh mita b'lo chet v'yesh yisurim b'lo avon. And therefore it does seem like people die for no reason, right? You could live to, let's say you live to 120. Maybe you didn't have sins, and that's why you live to 120. Right? You don't necessarily die for your sins. You die because people just don't live that long. And tiyufta to Rav Ami tiyufta. So they say this seems to be a tiyufta to Rav Ami. Maybe they're taking Rav Ami a little too seriously. Maybe when Rav Ami means yesh mita b'lo chet, he means ein mita b'lo azman or something like that. I mean, maybe he doesn't mean that if you die at 120, but they view him as if he means you would never die unless you sinned. And, you can basically say everybody sins at some point. But this Braita seems to say, no, there are some people who really never sin. And that seems to raise a contradiction to Rav Am. Okay. Again, I'd love to go more in depth into all this. At the end, I'm going to go more in depth and wrap all of this up together. Okay? Maybe I'll just pause for 1 minute and go a little bit in depth into the whole idea of rebuking. Okay, if we want to go back to the idea of rebuking, and then at the end, I'll sum up some more things. The whole idea of rebuking sounds very negative, right? It's like me coming from above and telling you, I know better than you, and it's negative, and it rubs us a little bit the wrong way, certainly with our modern eyes. I saw a Perush on this whole sugya, and Tosfot, who looked at this as rebuke, basically looked at it compared to other laws of rebuke and said there was a contradiction. And we said that Tosfot was a little problematic because it seems to go against the pshat of the sugya. So I found this parsha, it's Rav Mandelbaum. He wrote this Perush called Daf Aladaf. He lives in it. I think he's still alive. He wrote here, Dayan kan legabe parato shel Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. He says there's a difference between tochacha and arevut. Arevut is kol Yisrael arevim ze bazeh. We're all responsible for each other. And he basically says that all this doesn't have to do with rebuke. We're not talking about rebuke here. There's all these sugyas are talking about responsibility to others, communal responsibility, and even the Meiri said something very nice, which is we started off with the leaders and how the leaders are responsible to make sure that the people do the right thing. And he says it's also true the reverse. And he says, he says, not only does the king get punished for the sins of the people get punished for the sins of their leaders. And he basically said, if the people don't get up, like Rav Yehuda, who got up and said something to Shmuel, right? And he proves it from a pasuk of David HaMelech, when there was a magefa at the end of David's life, he decided to count the people and he gets punished for it. And there's a magefa among the whole people. And he says, he says, I know I sinned, but what did these people do wrong? And basically, the Meiri says what they did wrong was they didn't tell you to stop what you were doing. And it's a very fascinating discussion. I actually spoke about this yesterday at the Yomi about the responsibility of everybody. Everyone's responsible. You can't say, oh, it's the leaders, right? How many times do we criticize leaders and say they're doing everything wrong? But it's our responsibility right? So also, everyone has a communal responsibility, but the responsibility isn't from a kivun of tochachat. We're all part of this together. And it's one thing you feel when you live in Israel, this arevut, right? Everybody feels like they're responsible. And I think in this idea has very much spread in the time of Corona, and this whole tkufa is very much people looking out for the other, right? On the one hand, we're quarantined to a certain extent, but we're also very much looking out for the other. And it's this idea that we're all in this together and we're all struggling with the same things. And I think that's really the idea of what these dapim are talking about. Okay, let's move on, and then we'll come and sum everything up at the end. Amar Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan. We're starting from the 2 dots, about 6 lines from where the lines are wide. We're now going to start a series. We're only going to see 2 today of people who sinned. And basically, we're going to say they really didn't sin in what the Torah said. Now, if you take this line out of context, people always struggle with this. What do you mean Reuven didn't sin? And how could you say that? And blah, blah, blah. And we're going to see David Melech and all these people. But if you read it in the context, we're going to see that they don't actually say that they were free of all sin. It just says that they didn't do the sin that was attributed to them. Okay, keep this in mind. So what happened with Reuven? Shneimar v'yubnei Yaakov shnei masar. Okay, the beginning of that pasuk they don't quote, but it says Vayishkav Reuven et Bilha Pilegesh Aviv. I'm paraphrasing it, but it's about those words. And then it says in the end of that pasuk, it's a very strange pasuk. There's a break in the pasuk in the Torah where there's a space, and then it says v'yubnei Yaakov shnei masar. So what did they say? And therefore he didn't really sin. He was just like all his other brothers. So what do we learn from that? It says he slept with her. Right, this is very famously known that he switched the beds. He took the bed out of, right, Yaakov had a bed in the tent of whoever he was going to sleep there that night, and he moved the beds into Leah's tent. And it's attributed to him as if he slept with her. Tanya. Another bright about this, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Mutzal oto tzadik me'oto avon v'lo bama says eliyado. He was saved from it. Now, he wanted to sleep with her, but he was protected from it. Why? Efshar atid zaro la'amod al hari val v'lomar rosh shochev im eshet aviv v'yavo chetz eliyado. Ella, and that's how could it be that his sons are destined to stand? Because half of the Shvatim stood on Har Val and half stood on Har Guzim, half said the brachot, half said the klalot. He was on the side to say the curses. Could he possibly say, cursed is the man who sleeps with the wife of his father? And he would actually have done the same thing himself? No way. He took away the embarrassment of his mother. In other words, he was trying to prevent her from being embarrassed. If my mother's sister was always the favorite, Rachel, now her maidservant's going to be more favored over my mother? So he had the right reasons maybe, but he did something not so right. Some people add that okay, some people say it's because Yitzu'eh is actually read as Yitzu'eh, plural. It's the beds of my father, and that there were actually 2 beds. It wasn't wherever Yaakov's bed was, the Shekhinah was, or either there was an extra bed of the Shekhinah, or just maybe wherever Yaakov was, that's where the Shekhinah was, and he actually moved the Shekhinah also, which was even more worse, than just moving his father's bed. Anyway, the whole machloket about what Reuven did and what happened is a machloket Tanaim, Kitanai. Pachaz kamayim al totav, that's what he's told by Yaakov. Pachaz means, right, that you're reckless like water, and you will not excel because of that. So what is this pachaz? We're going to darshan it pei chet zayin. Okay, we're going to say the pei stands for something, the chet, the zayin. We're going to have a number of different interpretations. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, pasta, chavta, zalta. Okay, pasta, you rushed into something. Chavta, you became chayav, you became obligated, and zalta, zil zalta, you were very disrespectful. Rabbi Yeshua, which sounds like he actually did something very wrong. It's not clear whether he actually slept with her, but it's possible. This one seems very clear. He slept with her. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, pasata, you were impulsive. Pasata al dat, you were impulsive and you went against the religion. Chatata, you sinned. Zanita, you did znut. Okay, that's right. You slept with your mother, your father's wife. Rabban Gamliel Omer, pilalta, chalta, zarchat, vilatcha. All the others are going to be among the direction that you prayed. You by chalta from the Lashon by Yichal Moshe, he prayed. You beseech God, zarchat, vilatcha, and your prayers were answered. Amar Rabban Gamliel, adayin sruchim anu lemodai. But we also need the perush of Rabbi Elazar Modai. Rabbi Elazar Modei Omer, hafochet hateva v'dorsha. Flip the letters, instead of pachaz, instead of pechet zayin, zayin chet pei, v'dorsha ziazata, you shook, here atata, here tata, you recoiled, and parcha chet mimcha, and then the chet left you. Okay, these are all ways of describing that he wanted to sin, but he held himself back. And he went through a process to basically prevent him from sin. Rav Amar v'Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Zacharta, he also does it a flip, starting with Zayin. Zacharta onsho shel davar, you remembered all of a sudden you get punished for this. Chalita atzmacha choli gadol, in order to prevent yourself from sinning, you got yourself very sick from it. Perashta milachto, and then you didn't sin. Okay, now we have a siman for all the people we're going to get to. One is Reuven that we just did, Bnei Eli, Bnei Shmuel, David, Shlomo, Yoash, siman. So we're going to deal only with Bnei Eli today. Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan, Kol Omer Bnei Eli Chatu Eino Ela Toeh. If you say the sons of Eli, these were in the time of Shmuel, when Shmuel was the shafet, right? There was the sons of Eli, and they were known to be terrible. But if anyone says they really sinned, now sinned with what? It says Asher Yishkavu Nitan Nashim. They slept with the women. Okay, Tzavot Petach Ol Moed. They slept with the women that were waiting in the entranceway of Ol Moed. That sounds pretty severe. Okay, so now they're going to say, no, they didn't actually do that. Shneimar v'sham shnei bnei Eli, Hofni uPinchas kohanim laHashem. So they were kohanim laHashem. It talks about them in a positive way, and it talks about Hofni uPinchas together. Sava lakerav de'amar Rav Pinchas lo chata. Says that Pinchas never sinned, and then they say, well, Hofni and Pinchas are mentioned together. So just like Pinchas didn't sin, it must be also Hofni didn't sin. So mekish Hofni lePinchas, ma Pinchas lo chata, af Hofni lo chata. So then elamani mekayam asher yishkavu netanashim. So what do we learn from that? Mitoch sheshahu et kinehen shelo alchu etzel ba'alehem ma'aleh alehem hakatuv ki'ilu shchavu. What did they do? They held back. They didn't bring the korbanot. The women had to bring korbanot yoldot when they gave birth. They would bring their money to the Beit HaMikdash, and the Kohanim would get them, or they would bring birds, or the Kohanim would have to go buy the birds, and they delayed, and the women would stay there waiting to make sure their korban was brought. So because of that, they prevented the wives from going home and sleeping with their husbands. So because of that, it's said that they were Yishkavu Netanashim. Okay, Gufa. Now we're going to go in depth into what Rav said. Amarav, Pinchas lo chatan. Now, what we said before was that this opinion, Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, who said in the name of Rabbi Yonatan that neither of them sinned, must hold like Rav and then learn from Rav to Hofni also. But Rav really was only saying about Pinchas, and we're going to now see Rav. In other words, here they're listing about Achiyah ben Achituv, and they say it was the son of Pinchas, who was the son of Eli. Now, if somebody sins and is a terrible person, they're not going to list them in the Yichus. If someone who does this will be cut off. What will happen to someone who sins? And there's an assumption that was talking about sinning with promiscuity. Heir means he won't have any children who are chachamim, smart, wise people. And his sons won't be part of the students either. The megish mincha there means he won't have a son who's megish mincha if he's a kohen. So therefore, if his son is being called in his name, it must be his grandson right there. So it must be that he didn't sin, because otherwise we wouldn't be attributing his children to him, and his children wouldn't be going, wouldn't be called in a positive way, because you really sinned with promiscuity, so your children are cut off. They're not chachamim, they're not megishei mincha, etc. So what do we say here? But it says they slept with the women. How do you explain that? Yishkevan ktiv. We're now going to basically say, right? It must be Pinchas didn't sin, but Hofni did it all himself. So now they're going to say every time it said it in plural, it's really singular. It says Yishkevan, but it doesn't have a vav there, so you can read it as Yishkevan. He did it singularly. V'haktiv al banai kilo tova shmua. Eli says to his sons, I hear bad things about you. Banaim, you're my sons. Amar bar Yitzchak, b'ni ktiv. No, you can read it as b'ni, my son, and not both of them. V'haktiv ma'avirim, and here it really does have a yud. Okay, that's ma'avirim at Hashem or something is in the pasuk. It's in the same pasuk as al banai kilo tova shmua. So again, what do they say? Ma'aviran. Okay, read it. I'm Rav Huna B'Rei Rav Yeshua. Ma'aviran. Read it as ma'aviram. Okay, singular. So they basically turn all the plurals into singular and say it was just Chofni, not Pinchas. Now they get to one where they can't anymore. V'haktiv b'nei Bilyal, and here it's really the punchline of the whole daf. Okay, so get ready. Doesn't it say b'nei Bilyal? So what do they answer? Mitoch shayalo lePinchas limchot lechofni v'lo micha ma'aleh alav hakachuv ke'ilu chata. He was his brother. He was doing the same thing as him. He should have stopped him from what he was doing. And he didn't stop him. What do you see from here? That it was as if he was choteh. By the way, I think I forgot to mention this, but the daf al-adaf basically says, how does he get that it's din arevut? Because he says it doesn't say lashon tochacha here. It says limchot. He should have protested. Protested is not the same as rebuking. So basically, what do we do with all this? With the common denominator about all these things, basically, and if you say eno ela choteh, and some people say, how could you say eno ela choteh when they really did sin? It doesn't really mean, if you take that line out of context, and it sounds like they really didn't sin, but if you read the Gemaras here, it's clear that they think that they were responsible for other things and they did things incorrectly, so maybe they didn't sleep with the woman. But what is it? This sin is attributed to them, just like with the Pala of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, because you can't just walk around the world thinking that my actions don't have consequences, but you always have to think, what are the consequences of my action? I'm responsible for other people. I'm part of a world. I don't live as an individual and in a bubble. And basically, you can't walk around thinking that you live in a bubble and you're not responsible for other people's actions, but all our actions have consequences on other people. Now, what does this have to do with our animals and Shabbat and all that? Well, first of all, we talked a lot about that. A lot of the issues were Marit Ayin issues, how it's going to appear to other people. And if I let my animal go out like this, other people will come to think that it's okay, and they'll let their animals out like that. That's one possibility. The other possibility I thought was even more about the animals. Often we think, okay, there are animals. What's the difference, right? It's not me doing something, it's my animals. And we have a whole Masechet Bava Kama, which is a lot of it is geared to what happens when your animal damages, and that we're responsible not just for ourselves, we're responsible for our animals, we're responsible for everything that we own and everything that can have impact on other things, including things we don't own, like other people. We have this communal responsibility, and that's really the message of this whole sugya. And I think that's how it connects to what we're learning. Okay, we'll continue with this more tomorrow about all the other people.